afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Rebel News live stream. It is Tuesday, August 25th, 2020, and you have tuned in to the live stream, as I said, hosted by me, David Menzies, and my lovely co-host, Sheila Gunn-Reid. Sheila, how are you doing, my friend?
David, I could not be better because the long saga of my COVID-delayed Hacksaw Jim Duggan shirt is over, and it has a happy ending. I have the shirt. I have this shirt on. It's very 80s. I love how it looks. I love how it feels. It looks like it was drawn by a little kid. And it's finally over. It's been going on, I think, like 90 days. I've written several emails. They told me to be patient. They blamed the cough. Whatever. It doesn't matter. Our national ordeal is over, and I finally have my shirt, and it's great.
You know what? It is delightfully cheesy in an 80s kind of way. In fact, the illustration, Sheila, looks like an illustration of the Hacksaw Jim Duggan action figure as opposed to Hacksaw Jim Duggan. You know what that reminds me of? About 10 years ago, it was some notable celebration of the Statue of Liberty. I can't remember what year it was. And the U.S. Post Office had to recall something like 1 billion stamps that were depicting Lady Liberty. And the reason they had to recall it, Sheila, and this is absolutely unbelievable, some Statue of Liberty fan was looking closely at the image the post office used and said, you know what, that's not Lady Liberty. That's not the statue in New York Harbor. That's the facsimile in Las Vegas at the New York casino. Now, Sheila, think of how many millions, maybe billions of images of the Statue of Liberty exist. And the U.S. Post Office took the image of the replica Statue of Liberty. Unbelievable. Your tax dollars, well, our American friends' tax dollars, hard at work as always, right?
It's hard to believe a government agency got something wrong and was completely inept. I'm shocked to hear this, David. This is astounding news, ground-shaking news. Should we tell everybody what we're doing here today before we get way off the rails? Because we are already dallying with wrestling, and that usually ends up very distracting for us.
I say we make it a 100% wrestling show today. I don't know how.
Don't play with my heart.
I don't know if the boss would approve. But yes, please do, Sheila, tell our viewers what it is we are hopefully trying to get done here today.
You know, a full wrestling show would be something the boss would approve of if only our viewers approved of it, because we democratize the news here, and that's what I'm about to talk about, because we went from one live stream a week. Only on Friday it was called Battleground, but then the COVID hit, everybody's at home, and there's more news than ever to talk about, so we extended our live streams the rest of the 4 days of the work week, because Ezra runs Canada's largest independent media company. It's difficult to do it all 5 days. So David and I sub in on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and sometimes we have some of our other friends sub in too, like Andrew and Kian. And it's a chance for us to interact with each other, which is great, because I think, as you can tell, David and I are friends in real life, and we have some affection for each other, and we like a lot of the same things. But also it gives you a chance to interact with each other in the live chat, and it gives our viewers at home a chance to support the work that we do completely willingly through something called a super chat. YouTube takes some, we take the bulk of the money, and you can throw a comment in the bottom there by the little $sign. If you click that, the more money you give, the more characters you get, and it'll highlight your comment to the top where everybody will see it, including me and David. And if we miss it, then producer Justin will send it to us, and you can throw a comment in there, a story suggestion, a question, a topic that you'd like to discuss, and it's a great way to support the work that we do without having the government take the money out of your pocket. And it's democracy in action. And
you know, Sheila, speaking of Ezra, I want to say what an incredible job you and Ezra did covering the Conservative Leadership Convention, if we can even call it a convention, given how online it was. That was amazing, and it was difficult because nobody anticipated something on Sunday evening was going to, carry on until Monday morning in the wee hours. And I thought the coverage was fantastic. I didn't even bother to tune into the Ministry of Truth coverage at the CBC. It was just so riveting. So I want to thank you for that. And it was, it was a real marathon. And it was just fantastic content. And I also want to give a shout out to Kian, who yesterday put out a video. And I think, folks, it is the best analysis of why the so-called prohibitive favorite, Peter MacKay, lost. And if you go to Kian's video, that's up on the YouTube channel, of course, you can see that. So well done, all three of you.
Oh, gosh, David, thanks. Yeah, it was 8 hours in this chair right here. And I know that, my dinner consisted of, running upstairs, hammering some food into my face, running back down when Justin kindly put up some longer clips so that we could get away from the desk just for a second. But, the dog got in my garbage can while I was on air because it had beef jerky leavings and cheese in there. It was what you saw on camera in real life, very different, very, very different. And yeah, it's hard to talk for 8 hours straight. That experience is really like being trapped in a car with Ezra on a long road trip where it's just he's giggling and he's laughing and he's telling stories and you're just trying to get to where you're going. That's my job, the navigator. I'm trying to get us to where we're going and he is just doing his thing. And so, thankfully, Ezra never runs out of things to talk about. So, that really carried the day the other night.
And, let's speak a little bit about Erin O'Toole. I thought the front page of The Sun kind of nailed it, Sheila. Simply, I'm Erin O'Toole, and a picture of Erin O'Toole. This is going to be one of his biggest challenges is, just getting recognition, I think. In fact, I heard a funny thing when he was last running for the leadership, in which I think he finished third, right, after Scheer and Mr. Bernier. I didn't know this, but they were talking, his handler was talking about how they had several calls from the media who were setting up interviews at the time, asking if Miss O'Toole was available. I had no idea. And these are people covering politics. Can you imagine, folks? And they're the ones getting your tax dollars, by the way. So, the very fact that people in the media couldn't even get the sex correct of Mr. O'Toole the last few years, that says something. So I guess he's going to have to get out there. And Sheila, I would do exactly what Mr. Scheer did not, which is, and certainly Kian alluded to this in his commentary of what went wrong for Mr. MacKay, is that embrace the non-mainstream media. Speak to the likes of us and True North and the rest, and don't run in a bathroom and don't hide behind your handlers and don't call the RCMP and the Durham Regional Police. Yeah, I haven't forgotten about that, Mr. Scheer. And, and so far, so good, right? When you compare, at least on the campaign trail, Sheila, O'Toole to MacKay, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. And, I had a very lengthy discussion yesterday with William Macbeth from Save Calgary about just this issue. And that is the Conservatives who embraced the independent media are the Conservatives who did the best. And especially if you look at Leslyn Lewis, she embraced independent media early on, I think knowing full well that she was not going to get any coverage in the mainstream media because she would bust their narrative when it comes to what they want the world to believe about Conservatives versus what we actually believe about ourselves and feel about ourselves. So she knew she wasn't going to get any coverage from them. Her first interview was with us.
Yep.
And if you step back away from that for a second, you can see that really helped her in places where Conservatives get their news nearly exclusively from us, like Alberta and Saskatchewan. She placed second in Alberta, yep. Which is incredible because we're sort of blue Tory establishment land. So that's, for her to do that well up against O'Toole when a lot of the on-the-ground Conservative MPs were already supporting O'Toole, I think that's terrific. But for her to take Saskatchewan, I mean, that's incredible. And that's because she wisely knew CBC isn't going to talk to me. I'm not going to wait around for them to talk to me. I'm going to talk to the media that wants to hear from me. And she went directly to independent media, and it shows in her results. It absolutely shows in her results. And Peter MacKay skipping 2 debates, his opportunity to speak directly to Conservatives who were and continue to be unclear that he's even Conservative at all.
I agree, Sheila. I think Leslyn Lewis's future is incredibly bright, and she's raised her profile, and I think she's a competent candidate for sure as a member of Parliament. And I guess it stands to be seen if she's going to run. I hope she does. Also, I got to say, just before we went on the air, I didn't get a chance to watch much of it. Erin O'Toole was having his first press conference as leader of the Conservative Party. And I'm so glad it went this way in case Mr. O'Toole was going to adopt the Andrew Scheer philosophy and strategy of reaching out to the mean girls, as our boss likes to say in the media party, the Star, the Globe, and the CBC, because he was bombarded with questions. Just think, this is, of course, on every Canadian's mind right now, folks. Are you going to throw Derek Sloan out of the party for allegedly making racist comments and other and phobic comments on the campaign trail? I'm glad Mr. O'Toole got this vitriol, this bile, right off the bat in case he had any thoughts that he could reach out and play nice to these people. That's your enemy. This media party is the Praetorian Guard for the Liberal Party, Mr. O'Toole, and it just showed by them attacking Mr. Sloan what you're in for. So don't listen to them.
Praetorian Guard is such a good Mark Levin phrase, isn't it?
I know, I stole that.
No, it's great.
But it goes back to the Romans, right? The ancient Roman, where they had the Praetorian Guard. And much like in the U.S. with their left-wing media, that's what we have here too. The media is not impartial anymore. And I mean, Sheila, think of all the problems surrounding Canada right now as we go through this grotesque pandemic and the response to it. And somehow these people in the media think that we got to get Derek Sloan, we got to make him the next victim of cancel culture because of something they disagreed with in their politically correct prism that they view everything through. Give me a break.
Well, and let's just think about the motives for that question for a second. Yeah. We could phrase it as, Mr. O'Toole, will you continue to fracture off valuable parts of the party to please us? Because that's what that question is all about.
Correct.
Erin O'Toole needs to unite the party. He needs to bring the PPCers back in. He needs to show that there's a place for them. He needs Derek Sloan's people to know that there's a place for them. Because as it went Derek Sloan's people, then it was Leslyn Lewis's people, then it was Erin O'Toole. I mean, Erin O'Toole needs the Sloan supporters and he needs the Leslyn Lewis supporters. He cannot alienate them for the sake of pleasing the media, but that is exactly what the media wants. Why? Because they want Justin Trudeau to win, because they want a broken party. They don't want a united party, that big blue tent of Harperism, where everybody just minds their own business, and it's okay to have all these different factions of conservatism, SOCONs, fiscal conservatives, all working together, and the leave me alone conservatives. It's okay to have them all working together for a more free Canada. The media, that's the last thing they want. So that's why they asked that question. They want Erin O'Toole to get rid of Sloan's people and alienate them, because that's how they get more Justin Trudeau.
Sheila, that is a great point. And the worst thing Mr. O'Toole could do right now is actually listen to these nattering nabobs of negativity, as Spiro Agnew once said, and alienate members of the base, the grassroots base of the Conservative Party. And as for McKay, oh man, for someone who came out swinging, criticizing Andrew Scheer, missing a net. An empty net on a breakaway. Well, you know what, Mr. McKay? I'll tell you, you know what you remind me of? And we wanted to show the clip, but we'd get demonetized because it's copyright of Hockey Night in Canada, and we don't want Hockey Night in Canada and Rogers and the York Regional Police to come after me and Sheila. But folks, if you can Google, all you have to do is type in Patrick Steffen. It'll be the first video clip that comes up. It's from 2007. Patrick Steffen, in the dying seconds of a game of the Dallas Stars and the Edmonton Oilers, had a breakaway on an empty net, and he could have made it 7-5. He misses the empty net, but not only that, this is how bad, Patrick Steffen, I think, is in the role of Peter McKay politically. After he misses the empty net, he trips, apparently on the goal line. So not only does he miss the empty net, he takes himself out of the play. It is now a 6-on-4 Edmonton rush, and with, I think, less than 2 seconds remaining, Edmonton scores the tying goal. It is something you see in hockey, I'd say, Sheila, once a century. So I wish I could show that to you, but that was Peter McKay. Not only did you miss the net on an empty net on a breakaway, my friend, you took yourself out of the play and you allowed the other team to tie the score. And so that's enough of a hockey metaphor for me, Sheila. For our viewers, please go to that clip and talk about it in the Super Chats. It is a spectacular 15 seconds of hockey that you will never forget.
Peter McKay thought that he could win the Conservative Party leadership by appealing to Liberals who aren't members of the party. What a winning strategy, bold strategy, Pete. And the thing with Erin O'Toole is, I think, Sloan's supporters and Lewis's supporters at least knew that they had a place where they could be welcome in the party under Erin O'Toole in the event that their first choice didn't win. And they knew with Peter McKay, there's no place for them. There's no place for a social conservative church group who would hold a fundraiser for their local MP. There's no place for those sorts of people here. And Peter McKay not understanding that a lot of that stuff happens out here on the prairies, not because social conservatives want to set the agenda, but because they want a place where they are welcome and where they belong. I think the fact that social conservatives setting the agenda, that doesn't even exist anymore. But they want a place where at least they are not treated like pariahs and bigots. At least they could get that with Erin O'Toole. And they know that's a guaranteed no-go with Peter McKay.
And the other thing about McKay, Sheila, I'm sure you'll agree, there was this undercurrent of arrogance and entitlement. And it came out so much when Kean was trying to scrum him at the hotel, and McKay he hid in the bathroom and then realized there's no other way out but the exit. He came in. What a terrible strategy! And there were words to the effect of, "What do you think you're doing?" And McKay said words to the effect of, "What does it look like?" And then he embraced the Charlie Sheen, "I'm winning." Right? And we fast forward to the wee hours of Monday night, and was that so sad when Andrew Scheer is raising the arm in victory of Erin O'Toole, and Peter McKay is doing 3 soft, defeated claps of the hand, like a firecracker went off in his ear. He can't believe what's happened, right?
Well, and that's the thing, there are a lot of people who are saying, Sheila, you should have supported Sloan. Sheila, why did you support Sloan and you didn't support Lewis? Sheila, why did you support Lewis and not Erin O'Toole? Nobody knows who I supported, but they know who I didn't want to win. Yeah. That's for darn sure. And I think I'm doing it right when nobody knows who I would personally be pulling for. It was very much the same in the federal election. I had PPC supporters sending me angry emails all the time saying, Sheila, why aren't you supporting Maxime Bernier? And then I'd have other people saying, Sheila, why are you supporting Andrew Scheer? Why are you supporting? Everybody got me wrong, or everybody got me right. And I think that is when we're doing our job, when people can't tell who we support, but they're pretty sure who we don't want to win. And I think that was pretty clear.
And Sheila, since you are out west, north of Edmonton, let me ask you this. The narrative in Alberta, certainly, since the last federal election has been Wexit. People literally want to separate from Canada.
Yeah.
With O'Toole becoming the Conservative leader, has that been tempered down now, or what is the situation on the ground in Alberta?
Well, it's only been a day, but just chatterings online, I can see that people are they still look at the federal Conservative Party now as that hindrance to independence. Sort of the same way a lot of Western separatists are looking at Jason Kenney and saying, okay, Jason, we like you. We like you. We're glad you're not Rachel Notley, but get out of the way. And that's the same thing, I guess, with the federal party. I don't think Justin Trudeau cares all that much if we stay or go. And I think the NDP would love for us to leave federally. They don't like us. They hate us. It would bring your national carbon emissions down if we just left. But the federal Conservative Party never wins again without us. Yep. Erin O'Toole does not become prime minister without Alberta. We're the war chest. We're the volunteers. We're the fundraisers when it's time for an election. Our volunteers, there's so many of them on the ground that they deploy to other parts of the country to door knock. That's how organized the Conservative Party is out here. And the federal party knows that. So they are going to do everything they can to squash separatist sentiment. Some of that might be through concessions to us, but to also discredit the movement. So don't be surprised if you hear official conservatives saying this is a xenophobic movement, a racist movement, an extremist movement, instead of just normal people. I am ready to hear that sort of rhetoric coming out of the federal Conservative Party, just out of desperation. Not even that they believe it, but because they need that to be believed by the rest of the country.
Interesting. And from what you're saying, too, it would seem that the unspoken strategy of the federal Liberal Party is that if Alberta were to leave, that would be a good thing for their fortunes in the future.
Yeah.
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 What a dynamic, eh?
Yeah, I mean, they get their emissions down, their national emissions come down just by virtue of the emitters leaving. Yeah. And then, then they get to reign forever. It'll be a 1,000-year reign of the Trudeau family, the Trudeau dynasty. Could you even imagine?
Okay.
Yes.
I believe we have some super chats, according to Mr. Producer.
Yes, we do. Let's just put on the glasses here. Look, we're all getting old, David, all of us.
You look so different, Sheila. There's like a Clark Kent Superman vibe going on here.
if Clark Kent were into 80s wrestling, yeah. Kristen Cranny gives us $2.79 Canadian. I don't see a super chat, Kristen, but thank you very much. Paul Forrest gives us $20. Thank you, Paul. When Prime Minister Peoplekind, the male version of AOC, that's so true, gets back to governing, watch for full-on radical left policies. What do you mean watch for them? What do you mean watch for them? They're already happening. This CERB is turning into a universal basic income just by virtue of the constant extensions of it all. And it's hurting small business owners who are trying to go back to work, particularly restaurants, who are trying to open up, trying to get back to business, and the government is paying their employees to stay home. And so that's a radical leftist policy that's been kicking around for a long time, and the COVID just put it into place.
Oh, it's worse than that, Sheila. I, on the weekend, was speaking to somebody who has contacts in the contracting industry who are super, super busy and are really more than ever doing cash jobs. And basically, what I heard, I haven't confirmed this, folks, is that all the people, or many of the people in that industry, I should say, because I have to double check this, but the rumor is they all applied for CERB, which they're getting, and then they're working on cash deal projects on the side. So this has just been like icing on a cake for them. And that just shows you the lack of due diligence that went into this program. And I will say this, Sheila, the rumors are, brace yourself for that second wave. No, I'm not talking about a second wave of infections and deaths due to the Wuhan virus, Sheila, but when Parliament does resume from the proroguing of Justin Trudeau announcing even more spending programs and investment programs, further creating a grotesque debt and deficit for this country. Just you wait and see. That's going to happen, I think.
I believe it, because as Justin Trudeau hands out more money while he's out there just making it rain with cash, his popularity goes up with people who are, I would suggest, they're low liability voters. In that these bad policies, they will not be the ones to pay for them. So it doesn't matter. They can vote for them all they want. There's low personal liability in it for them. Whereas for you and I, I'm concerned about my kids and my grandkids having to pay for somebody's Xbox and underpants days today, which is really what it's turning out to be.
Indeed.
Lamont Boucherville gives us $5. Bonjour, these radical leftists are already calling Erin racist, but let Trudeau bigotry fly. By the way, see Erin's platform on Quebec, more autonomy. Well, I'd like to see his platform on Alberta, too, because if Quebec's getting autonomy, then I better get autonomy, too. But yeah, it's funny, the people who wouldn't cover the Black immigrant accomplished lady who is running for the leadership of the Conservative Party, they wouldn't cover her, but they're calling somebody else the bigot. I mean, these are the same people who call Albertans radical, backwards, hillbilly, racist bigots. We're just, if you watch Eastern media and consume Eastern media, I mean, we're just driving around with Confederate flags all over our pickup trucks. But it was the West who nearly delivered, Leslyn Lewis, the leadership of the Conservative Party. Us backwards bigots, we were ready, and we did vote for and support the Black immigrant from Jamaica who lived in Toronto, the woman.
And consider the short-term memory of these media party members, Sheila. The fact that this is a prime minister who can't even remember how many times he's donned blackface, right?
Yeah.
And let's not forget, too, that it was Time magazine that broke that story, the Vancouver source that leaked the pictures to Time. The media narrative at the time, if you recall, Sheila, was the likes of the Globe and the CBC going after the individual, saying, why did you do this? What was your agenda? Not the fact that Trudeau had donned blackface, but what was this hidden agenda of this individual who gave the pictures to an American publication? Probably because he didn't trust the Canadian publications, I should say. And then one last log on this fire, and yet when a Pierre Elliott Trudeau in Thornhill, Ontario gets the blackface treatment, York Regional Police and the Mayor of Vaughan consider it a hate crime, and there's an investigation on. I mean, the hypocrisy it just dovetails into itself. You don't even know where to begin, Sheila.
Yeah. I mean, this is Justin Trudeau who groped Rose Knight. He groped Rose Knight, and what did that make? At a 48-hour news cycle in the mainstream media, that was it?
But she experienced it differently, right?
Right. And this
I'll have to remember
Justin
that line, except I don't grope other people.
This is Justin Trudeau, who claims to be the feminist and the guy who works for Indigenous reconciliation, and he booted out the first Indigenous female AG. Yep. So for being too ethical, for not bending to his unethical will. I mean, and the audacity. Erin O'Toole's been leader a day. I don't think he has any groping skeletons in his closet. And if he does, I'm sure someone would find them or would have found them by now. But he's the bad guy right now. Justin Trudeau is taking another personal day, I think, today. And Erin O'Toole's the bad guy.
You never want to grope a skeleton, Sheila. That's scary, and there's not much to grope. Not that I've ever groped a skeleton, folks, just in case. Continue, my dear.
Let's keep going. Kristen Cranny gives us 279. Sloan had a traditional conservative platform. Yeah, he did. I don't take issue with anything in his platform at all. At all. I think a lot of people just chose differently because they considered him not as electable maybe as Erin O'Toole, or they wanted to do something different and choose an insider a la Donald Trump by choosing Leslyn Lewis. Yeah, I don't have a problem with I don't have a single policy issue problem with Derek Sloan. John Bedbrook, $5. So sad, so many naysayers already showing up in chat. Are these liberal plants? I support Erin. Bye-bye Trudeau. Chris Marchese Marchese, I'm not sure, gives us $2. I thought the Republican convention was great. Trump 2020. Yep. It is great, and there's a lot of good video sound bites coming out of there. There was an incredible ad that the RNC launched like right on the very same day as the convention kicked off. And I think we're going to have a video from Lisa Song Sutton about her analysis of the RNC, because it's great for Canadians to talk about it, but she's an American, she's a Republican, former politician, so I'm interested to see what she has to say, especially as a woman of color.
Yeah, and there was such it was such a positive vibe in that convention, wouldn't you say, Sheila?
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, I was watching yesterday when Trump was sort of kicking off the RNC, and he was talking to the nurses, talking to the truckers, talking to the healthcare workers and the postal workers and the janitors, and introducing them. And I thought, that's why Trump won. He's the blue collar billionaire. He's a billionaire. I'm sure he has a gold toilet, but he eats KFC and drinks pop, and I think he's probably more at home on a construction site than any politician who has run for the leader of that country in probably the last 30 years.
And on the flip side, folks, when we get through the super chats, maybe we should jump to the excerpts of Cardi B interviewing Joe Biden. Boy, talk about when worlds collide, eh, Sheila? You don't want to miss that. It's incredible. Anyways, continue, Sheila.
I think we're almost all cut up. Great Informer gives us $5. Justin Trudeau can't manage a water fountain without screwing up. He also asked for seconds at an all-you-can-eat buffet. Okay. Yeah, maybe we should go to the clips of Cardi B interviewing Joe Biden.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's amazing.
President to do for us. But first thing first, let me keep it a buck. I just want Trump out. You know what I'm saying? I just feel like his mouth gets us in trouble so much. I don't want to be lied to. I don't want, we're dealing with a pandemic right now, right? And I just want answers. I want to know when this is over. I want to go back to my job. I want to be able to go outside. I want to be able not to feel like I'm trapped in my home. But I don't want somebody to lie to me and tell me that it's okay to go outside. It's okay not to wear a mask, that everything is going to be okay. No, I want like a timeline of when things are going to get better. I want a president to tell me what are the steps for us to get better besides, taking precautions like with our masks and quarantining. I need somebody to tell me this is going to be over when we find this cure. This is why it's taking so long. This is why other countries are doing better than ours when it comes to this pandemic. I need somebody to tell me the truth, the hardcore truth. And also, I, of course, want free Medicare. And this is why it's important to have free Medicare, because look what's happening right now. You see why we should have been have free Medicare for a long time. I, of course, think that we need a free college education. That's second. And I want Black people to stop getting killed and no justice for it. I'm tired of it. I just want more stricter laws that is fair to Black citizens. And, it's fair for cops too. If you kill somebody that doesn't have a weapon on them, you go to jail. You know what? If I kill somebody, I got to go to jail. You got to go to jail too. That's all I want.
And
What
in the
in God's
role
name
of
was
silent Santa Claus is Joe Biden. First of all, that is the best Joe Biden interview ever, Sheila, if you're part of the Joe Biden team, because he didn't say anything. He almost looked like he was in a trance. Secondly, to the now corporate Cardi B, be very careful when you're emphasizing your points by clapping your hands, because those talons at the end of her fingers would put Wolverine to shame. Did you see those fingernails, Sheila? But in that shopping list of what she wants, I love how she just tosses this, oh yeah, and by the way, free Medicare, right? Kind of like walking through the Shoppers Drug Mart aisle and saying, oh, I think I'll throw this lipstick in for the front counter checkout as well. That is just astonishing. How can anyone who is seriously considering a Joe Biden presidency look upon that and think, this is great. This is the man of the future?
I have so many thoughts. And first of all, I had to take one earbud out because her voice causes whatever sort of transient event in Joe Biden's brain. It does that to me. I can't take it. And so as Joe Biden is sitting there, and he's not even just sitting there like still, he's sort of doing this.
Yeah.
Like it was like watching a snake get charmed.
Yeah,
but yeah, while she's talking, clapping her hands that clearly indicate she doesn't do physical labor, which is fine. You don't want to do physical labor, that's great. That's not your lifestyle. Those talons could pick fish out of the river like an eagle. And she's clapping together her $400 manicure saying, I want free Medicare. It's like those people screaming about their Obama phones. Remember that?
Oh,
they wanted free stuff. She wants free Medicare. Sorry, you know what, Cardi B? You're rich. You're rich. How many people are you paying for Medicare? Go to the projects, find people who need Medicare, and start paying for it. Why do you need Joe Biden to take your money and then do it? Because it's not about her money. It's about everybody else's money.
Oh,
She makes enough money that she can creatively hide her money. It's everybody else that she wants to pay for everybody else's Medicare, while she claps together her $400 manicure that indicates to me that she doesn't even wipe her own bum. Somebody else has to do it for her.
Oh, geez. I never even thought about that. Are those things like removable? Because, yeah, it is raising hygiene issues right now, Sheila. Yikes. By the way, is that attractive? I mean, from a heterosexual male perspective, I think it's scary. I mean, I just worry about encountering those talons in a wrong way and bleeding. Sheila, from a female perspective, do you find that look, is that feminine? Is that beauty to you?
I've got to look, I do get my nails done, but I got to have nails that I can get into a pair of work gloves. That's just my lifestyle. I know that's not Cardi B's lifestyle, and there's, a lot of ladies do something in between Sheila and Cardi B, and that's fine. It works for them. But that's scary. That's obnoxious. That's over the top. And I can't get over the look on Joe Biden's face. Like he was like faltering there. And I don't know if there's somebody directly off camera who's there, like trying to, in case he falls over. He literally looked like he was having some sort of mistake. And I don't know, it could be Cardi B's voice, because that does it to me a little bit. But he doesn't look well at all.
No, and I don't think he is understanding half the points she's making. And I also think he's so beholden to political correctness, perhaps, Sheila, that he's worried about interjecting, which would be, of course, an expression of white privilege in terms of cutting off the visible minority lady.
That's a microaggression. Yes.
That's right. The microaggression versus the extra large fingernails. But I just find that astonishing. And you know what? All I can think of, Sheila, is, that goes on Twitter, that goes on social media. Yet when it comes to the households of average, normal American citizens, they're not being swayed by this garbage. They don't look to a Cardi B as an oracle of knowledge. They don't look to, I don't think, Joe Biden as some savior to the what's happened because of the Wuhan virus. And I think this is the grotesque overestimation again of those in Hollywood and those in the media party in the United States, that they have this narrative that they think has mainstream acceptance amongst the American people, and they're going to learn the hard way yet again on November 3rd that ain't the case.
What lunatic on Joe Biden's campaign team thought, let's have old Grandpa Simpson here get yelled at for 10 minutes by Cardi B, because that's going to be effective? And what part of that do they think is going to translate to, I don't know, Michigan auto workers, coal miners, people in Pennsylvania, Ohio? What part of that speaks to them? Where Pennsylvania, it's sort of a swing state. They're concerned about Kamala Harris's radical environmentalism and her ban on fracking.
Yeah.
They need to hear something. They don't want, and they were already told by Hillary Clinton, we're going to put a lot of coal miners out of work in the coal belt, Rust Belt, nobody campaigns in except Trump. What part of that madness, nonsense, screaming, abrasive, whiskey-voiced woman, what part of that is going to appeal to the swing state? Please help me. It won't.
No, and Sheila, I heard a few weeks ago, it was absolutely a fascinating interview. It was Ted Cruz being interviewed, and he said there are two prevalent trends happening. One I get, one I don't get in terms of the 2020 election campaign. One is blue-collar, unionized workers switching their allegiance from the Democrat Party to Republicans because they realize that the champagne socialists that are part of the Democrats, they have nothing in common anymore with the hard hat, the lunch bucket brigades. They're stopping projects, as you meant. They want to make America non-independent in terms of energy by shutting down fracking. So this is bad for them and their families, and they're going to be voting Republican. But what I don't understand is the other prevalent trend is white, college-educated, suburban women going Republican to the Democrats. And basically the common denominator is, well, we don't like Donald Trump's mean tweets. Well, to that I say, Sheila, you don't like mean tweets. If these Dems get in power, who are totally turning a blind eye to the carnage in certain American cities that are going on right now, that's in the inner city right now. If the Democrats get in, you're going to see that crap spread to suburbia. So if you're offended by Donald Trump tweets with some salty language, what are you going to feel like when you see an Antifa mob coming down your street in the suburbs doing vandalism and arson and worse? That's what I have to say. But Sheila, can you explain that other trend, the whole idea of college-educated, white, suburban females going Democrat?
I can't. I would maybe suggest there's a little bit of social climbing involved in it. You live in the suburbs because you don't want to live in the city. You want that big backyard. You want a little more. Normally, for someone like me who has moved up a couple socioeconomic demographics in their life, for me, I want to keep that. I don't want the government to tax that away from me. But for, I think, maybe a portion of this, and I'm only estimating and guesstimating, maybe some of those women, they want to, you see the upper class people, the elite people around you, they're Democrats. And so maybe you want to be part of that. For me, that sounds like a special circle of hell. And I think that's why, like, white, not college-educated women, they did vote for Trump because they still care about certain things that are not, like what you would say, first world problems. They don't care about that so much as they care about paying the bills, the jobs for their husbands, future jobs for their kids. and money in the bank. That's the stuff they care about. And they did go to Trump, and hopefully they continue to go to Trump, because I think at the end of the day, their issues are really the issues of the country of the whole. Yeah. And the other stuff is just sort of noise and nonsense. And Justin whispered in my ear that we have super chats. Lisa Proust, regular donor, yes. Good supporter of the show, gives us $2. Love you, Sheila and David. Keep up the great work. Thank you very much. We definitely will. Great informer, the punster. Elizabeth gives us $5. Elizabeth Warren flies an Apache helicopter to the Navajo reservation. Well, Justin Trudeau schedules an appointment to drink Dr. Pepper.
She's entitled to do so. She's what, 128th Cherokee, I believe?
No, 1,024th.
I forgot to carry the one, or the decimal or something like that. You know what? I think I'm more of a Cherokee because for 1 week I rented a Jeep Grand Cherokee.
I have 2 Jeep Grand Cherokees. Okay.
Well, then you're the chief then in Elizabeth Warren's world.
Perfect.
Man, oh man.
Anybody can be anything these days, though, David. You can self-identify. You don't have to prove it. You don't need to produce some sort of blood quantum. You can be whatever you want. The left told me this. Chancelot the Flawed LeChop gives us $5. Have you guys thought of going around and catching off-duty retail people and asking them what they think en masse about being knighted as mask enforcers? I bet you a lot of them are working minimum wage and they just don't want to lose their job. And so they probably wouldn't go on camera. But yeah, I can't believe that these out of control municipalities, Edmonton, I'm looking at you, are making these minimum wage kids act as bylaw officers for your stupid mask laws that are coming in at the end of the pandemic. Again, I say it every time I talk about the mask. If they had said to me, we don't quite know what's going on with this disease, let's everybody continue to go to work, let's make sure we're still washing our hands, let's everybody still go to school, and we're going to wear masks until we figure this out, I would have been extremely open to that idea. But now that we've come through the pandemic, the line is flat. There's no curve. It's just like a straight line. And now they're making us wear masks after we figured out we didn't need them before and probably everybody could have kept working. And now we're making kids making minimum wage enforce these laws and answer questions they shouldn't have to. It's ridiculous.
Sheila, and I always look to the city of Brampton here in Ontario, ruled over by King Patrick Brown, a.k.a. the man who would have been Premier of Ontario if not for, thank God, a palace coup. And they are on such a jihad in terms of giving out warnings and actual fines regarding Wuhan virus protocol, that they have hired their own security service. I think it's Paragon, and these Paragon cars, they lurk in parks watching for kids getting on, say, playground equipment that is closed, and they don't have the ability, of course, to write one of those $880 fines. So their role is paid professional snitch. They get on the phone and call bylaw, and like Batman in the Batmobile, they rush to the recreation center or the park or the soccer field and start handing out those tickets. That is just, to me, a level of insanity and brutality against your own citizens who are sick and tired of months of being cooped up. And I want to know this too. You did say how the narrative is changing. I know the date, March 8th. That was when Dr. Fauci said, do not wear a mask. There's more harm than good. Now they've done a 180. Sheila, the flu, the traditional flu, we know when it's flu season, it's highly contagious. Never in my life on this planet have I ever seen, even during a really, really bad flu season, the health authorities say, you know what, while it's flu season, even if you're okay, even if you're vaccinated, wear a mask because you don't want to spread this, because we know it is highly contagious. So why don't we wear masks during flu season, but we must wear masks during Wuhan virus season? Can anyone explain that to me?
Can anybody? And the part that really irritates me, and it's something to my great shame, I didn't pay much attention to earlier. The flu absolutely tears through Canada's nursing home and extended care facilities every single year. Every single year.
Yep.
They have outbreaks of the flu, and it is absolutely deadly to elderly and infirm people. So why before now didn't we have better disease control protocols happening in those nursing homes? If we had taken care of how the flu tears through nursing homes years ago, since, flu outbreaks have been happening since forever, but definitely at least, since the early 1900s, the second decade of the 1900s. So why haven't we figured out how to contain and stop the spread of diseases in our nursing homes sooner? Because then we wouldn't have all these elderly folks that are dying of the coronavirus now. Florida kind of figured it out. Yeah. They were doing like the 5-minute testing on their staff before they could come in to the nursing homes. If you tested positive, sorry, you're not working. And they protected and isolated their elderly population, which worked out great. In Alberta, the age of death for the coronavirus is 2 years higher than the average age of all deaths in Alberta, 84 versus 82. So we know it's killing elderly people. Why haven't we done more to protect them from the diseases that kill them before now? Because then we wouldn't have to worry about any of this right now.
No, I agree. I think how some of these long-term care facilities are allowed to operate is scandalous, Sheila. And nothing will ever change, including this year when we had members of the armed forces go into these kind of facilities and issued yet another devastating report. But I'm going to make a guess, every 5 to 10 years, this always happens. There's some damning report or some investigative journalism series that uncovers how horrible we treat our seniors. And the same thing happens. Our elected officials do a press conference saying this is unacceptable and we're going to take measures, and nothing is ever done. And I bet you, including this year with the coronavirus deaths, nothing tangibly is going to be done either.
Well, and don't get me wrong, I don't want the government to take control of these facilities at all. I just want better regulation and more oversight, because I think the government is almost always never the solution to any of these sorts of problems. But why don't we have better oversight in these facilities and better standards? I'm not against private care facilities at all. In fact, more often than not, a private care facility might be a little more expensive, but they are getting, our seniors are getting better care sometimes in them. And I want families to have those options. But there are other ways to have taken care of our elderly people. And I think a lot of that has to do with a cultural change where we started warehousing our old instead of keeping them in their homes and with their families. And a lot of that has to do with how we live our lives now, where we see, once you get to a certain age, okay, sell your house, move to the seniors facility, and it doesn't have to be that way. I mean, grandkids keep old people young. Yeah. Why stick them in a seniors facility?
I agree with what you're saying, Sheila, but just look what we learned, at least in Ontario. I was shocked when I discovered this, that some of these long-term care facilities were being inspected via telephone.
Exactly.
Can you imagine? I also like the idea that we have public health inspectors going into restaurants and inspecting to make sure everything's hygiene. Can you imagine inspecting a restaurant via telephone? Is the grill clean? Did you sanitize the restroom? Yes, okay. Pass, boss. They said they're okay. I mean, that is ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly. I wish we would treat the places that care for our seniors as well as we do and as seriously as we do the local McDonald's, but we don't.
Yeah.
Anyways, we got to get through these super chats because, David, we have 7 minutes left in the show.
Not again.
Every time. Kane Enmark gives us $2. Thanks, Kane. You're a regular donor and a regular Kean super fan. By the way, how do you feel about finding out he's a puzzler? He puzzled his way into my heart the other night. You did. Did you see that, David?
No, I don't think
pictures?
so.
David, maybe Mr. Producer can bring up some of Kian. We found out the other night on the live stream, just because we ran out of things to talk about, that Kian is a puzzler. He's a young man who puzzles.
Look at all the Red Bulls. And what's that? Some Peller Estates. They make good wine, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, Baco Noir. That's what you should try, folks. Not that, not the white stuff. A real wine is red. But how many pieces was that puzzle that Kian's working?
Thousands. Look at this.
What is he doing now? Channeling Burt Reynolds circa 1972?
He looks like Mr. June of Sexy Men of Puzzling charity calendar. That's what he looks like.
The puzzler. I have to remind you, when we're off the air, I'll tell you a story about a guy that had a nickname that was like the Riddler, of which I can't say on air. And
okay.
I'll just stop that anecdote right now. Super chats, Mr. Producer, nervously.
Yes, Justin, I hear you. Kane and Mark, $2. Cardi B knows job is like Michael Jackson's, but his is better. I think time will only tell. Adam Clark, $6.99. Sleepy Joe has literally had 2 lobotomies. His wife and daughter were killed. Honestly, I don't feel right making fun of him anymore. I feel bad for him. I do. I feel like what the Democrats are doing is exploitation of the elderly. It's a little hard to watch, actually. Yeah. Great Informer, $5. Cardi B proofreads for a skywriting company. Joe Biden puts M&M candies in alphabetical order. Kurt123 gives us $20. I knew CBC was compromised, but not covering Leslyn Lewis is really amazing. I'm glad she ran because CBC was exposed big time. What does Ezra call them? White power in politics? Yeah, because they refused to cover the black lady. Rebel News and Laurelyn Tyler Thompson are the best journalists in Canada right now. Thank you very much. I like Laurelyn very much. Great Awakening, $5. Trump 2020, where we go one, we go all. Paul Estevez gives us $5. I don't see a super chat. Great Informer. Kamala Harris hires a detective to find the weight that she lost while dieting. Where does it go? Paul Estevez gives us $5. May I get a Freedom of Info copy on this city decision making? Is that for the mask? We put our Freedom of Information documents on the website when we publish those stories, so you can get your copy there. That's something we do that the other media doesn't do. And that's if we get documents and we've fundraised for documents, we take donations to get the access to information documents, we put them up because you helped us get them. You should read them. Don't take my word for things. And maybe you'll find something in there that I didn't. Jack Krauser, $2.79. I self-identify as a gas giant. A star? A star or like a really big oil company? Great Awakening, $5. The virus is a power grab that failed. It will magically disappear November 4th. Yeah. BLS only gives us $5. Thank you. I've been headfirst in the U.S. and time I get into Canada. Okay. I think maybe we missed a word there. Kane Enmark gives us $2. My opinion of Kian just went up. LOL. Because of the puzzling? Because he puzzled his way into your heart?
Hopefully it's the puzzling and not the bearskin rug.
Ezra and I were joking that Kian's been the missing piece in our lives. Oh, sweet Kian. You know, it takes a confident, bold young man of his age to admit to even being a puzzler. Because that's more of like a 75-year-old person.
You know what,
trying to keep their brain sharp.
Actually, if you look at the stats, one thing during the last 6 months that has an incredible bump in sales are puzzles. Especially the puzzles of 500 and 1,000 pieces or more, because so many people have been confined to quarters and they're going out of their minds. I mean, you can only, I guess, watch so much Netflix content. So puzzle sales are actually off the charts right now. So, it's funny when you look at the Wuhan virus, the winners and losers economically. But there you go. I would imagine that many of our viewers might have looked into puzzling again. If I wasn't so busy like my rebel colleagues here, I think I would be buying a puzzle too. They're kind of addictive especially when you have nothing to do. But this
There's
pandemic, Sheila, oh yeah, we never catch our breath. There is just so much news, isn't there, Sheila, coming out of this pandemic? I mean, and I think maybe our greatest year to date in the history of this company has been 2020 thus far. What do you think?
I think my greatest stress in a day is choosing the story that I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Because there's so much, and I want to get to it all, and I feel compelled to get to it all, and I know our viewers really want us to cover it all. But there's only a few of us, and we can't get to it all. It's just so many man hours in a day. And it's one thing for us to talk about it, but then we have to have our stories edited and produced, and then there's all the back office people who put things up on the internet. So for us to just get in front of a camera and talk, that's great. But it's all these man hours, and we don't have CBC's budget. So I wish I could get to more. I don't know if we physically can right now without more people. We have more super chats, and we're already past 11. Veteran's Voice, Chris Semchuk, gives us $13.99. You guys rock. Sent David a story tip for Kingston. Please let me know what you think, David. Kingston Council is ramming a safe consumption site. Oh, I hate those with a passion. Into the 11th poorest neighborhood in Canada. Of course, it's always in somebody else's neighborhood. When you look at the fentanyl statistics, fentanyl claims affluent kids and affluent people just as much as it does people from the lower socioeconomic demographics. But they always put the supervised consumption sites into the poor neighborhoods, because they don't want the crime, the black hole of crime that supervised consumption sites create in the fancy communities. It's okay for the poor people, though. It's gross.
I will look into that tip, so thank you for sending it. Of course, last time I went to Kingston, an Antifa guy threw a bottle off my head, so maybe I'll get a nicer welcome this time, Sheila.
Maybe he'll be down at the consumption site getting high. Who knows? And maybe he'll be in a better mood. And MEC gives us $1.80. I don't see a super chat. Thank you very much. PB Picks 360, $5. Puzzle me this. Can you stump the puzzler? I don't think you can stump the puzzler. Kian is a very sharp little guy. Rona Socks gives us $5.49. I don't see a super chat. Thank you very much. Jack Krauser gives us $6.99. Says Virginia is going to have mandatory vaccines. Any news on which Canadian province I will have to flee to avoid it?
Wow. I don't know that story. Mandatory.
I'm not sure. Generally speaking, Alberta is very freedom-oriented. Our provincial government didn't make masks mandatory, so the municipal politicians got out of their minds and did it. So maybe it'll be us.
I'd also like to know where the vaccine's coming from, Sheila, because if it's coming from China, forgive me, I'm not exactly very embracing of that, given that they gave us the curse to begin with. And by the way, just in case anyone thinks this is a racist statement, when I speak of China, I am not speaking of the Chinese people. I'm speaking of the mandarins in Beijing, the Communist Party that has been responsible, I guess, for the last 3 or 4 pandemics that the world has had to endure. That's what I mean. The Chinese people are the biggest victims of the Beijing-based Communist Party. But the idea of going to this country for a solution to this mess that was caused by them, I'm not gung-ho on that, Sheila.
I want the Chinese people to be free. That's why I hate the Chinese government. And I'm not anti-vaccine. I'm anti-Chinese military vaccine, for sure. I think that's a terrible idea.
100%.
Let's keep going. Kathy D gives us $20. Thanks, David and Sheila. You're wonderful to watch. Oh, thank you very much. David, your boldness taking on BLM or sneaky politicians in Ontario is inspiring. Sheila, I love sharing a home province with you. Thank you very much. I want to be like you when I grow up. Oh.
That's so nice.
Thank you. That's kind.
How old was that person?
I don't know. That's okay. Hopefully younger than me.
I never thought of that.
Yeah, I hope you're younger than 41. Otherwise, I look much older than 41. And I think that's the end of the show.
Wow, it sure is. And I think we've gone overtime by 3 minutes. So without further ado, thank you to Mr. Producer. And Sheila, thank you so much. You look absolutely lovely with your Hacksaw Jim Duggan t-shirt. And a extra special thank you to all the Super Chatters. We do depend on your generous contributions to keep the lights on. So Sheila and I will see you back here in this space at the 12 noon Eastern time. And tomorrow, the big boss man himself, Ezra Levant, he'll be here for the live stream. In the meantime, have a great day and stay safe.